What if Dobby never died? For this change of a story, we have to go back to Malfoy Manor, the place where Dobby's interference for the first time caused a great rescue for Harry and his friends, but ultimately led to the death of Dobby. So for Dobby to survive, we have to remove some key elements from the Harry Potter universe. Aberforth's wishes for Dobby to go and rescue them. So removing Dobby from the situation, how would Harry and his friends have escaped Malfoy Manor, and ultimately the wrath of Voldemort, who was obviously coming back to kill Harry as they escaped? For me, it is quite simple, and I questioned this in the book. Harry, Hermione and Ron, preceding the Ministry of Magic, used Grimmauld Place as a hideout for planning for the Horcruxes, aided by Kreacher, who was determined to avenge Regulus Black. However, after the Ministry was breached and Grimmauld Place became unusable, Kreacher was unable to reach Harry and Hermione and Ron in the tent due to the fear for them bringing back Death Eaters, as Yaxley was there, who would have probably breached Grimmauld Place and everything. However, in Harry's desperate time of need, when he's left without options after he's been captured by Snatchers, who would he have gone to? Would he have gone to the mirror in an ideally realistic situation to look through it and see an unknown figure and ask them for help? Or would he instead have used his option with Kreacher and risked it to try and bring Kreacher back to try and help them, who obviously was very well wanting to abide them and everything? So maybe instead of using Sirius's mirror, instead he could have called Kreacher to come and rescue him and all the others, thus leading them to Shell Cottage. Whilst many of you may question why Kreacher would be in a position to help them, you may be forgetting the Battle of Hogwarts, where we obviously saw Kreacher charge out with the house elves from the Hogwarts kitchen, slashing at people's ankles, and obviously trying to help his master, Regulus Black, in succeeding in bringing down the Voldemort regime. So meaning perhaps when discussing Kreacher in the tent, we must know that we have to see that he travelled to Hogwarts somewhere between the Battle of the Ministry and the Battle of Hogwarts. So meaning perhaps when discussing Kreacher in the tent, the ex-headmaster Sirius Black's relative Phineas Nigelius overheard this, reported it to Snape, who obviously was in and around the tent sending the dough to Harry, and all of this would have then indirectly ordered Kreacher to the kitchens, or even manually forced Kreacher to go to the kitchens once Yaxley had breached Grimmauld Place. Obviously, when he would go there, this would allow Kreacher to rescue the gang, as he has no way of not being involved in it and all this other stuff. However, so obviously after Snape indirectly ordered him to the kitchen, this would allow him to rescue the gang. But for the sake of the story, we are going to have to assume that when Kreacher goes there and rescues the gang, he would have been killed at Malfoy Manor, the same as Dobby was in canon. This then poses the question to what would Dobby be doing at this time? Obviously him and Winky, who you may know from the Goblet of Fire, the book, you wouldn't know her from the film, would be a part of the Hogwarts kitchen. Now obviously there is a change. There's 3 Death Eaters at Hogwarts. One of them is Snape, so he's obviously undercover, just trying to protect the students, maybe indirectly. Or not, we don't really know what Snape's viewpoints were, because he was so in cover to try and bring down them as a whole. He may have been forced to not really do anything, and we know that Snape wasn't really around Hogwarts doing anything as much. It was the Carrow brothers, or the Carrow twins, as I should say. I know one of them was a woman. So I don't know what Dobby would be doing, but obviously they would be more likely having harsher punishment. Now, it's not incorrect to say Dobby and Winky probably know of this. Crouch probably hit Winky, and obviously Dobby lived with the Malfoys, so he would know this above all else. But maybe I would view this a different way. So Dobby was a campaigner for being a free elf. And whilst he really liked doing it himself, we know from when Hermione tried to do it with Spew, he didn't really like to spread it to other house elves. But he may reconsider this stance if he saw the torture that house elves were being put through under Voldemort's regime, thus readying the elves to fight in the Battle of Hogwarts. So obviously Kreacher probably started them up to do. Maybe Dobby would do it in a different way. Again, obviously we know that the house elves were ordered under Snape's order to fight in the Battle of Hogwarts, otherwise they would not have been able to do it, or they would have had to punish themselves severely every time they tried to do anything. So we know that Snape allowed them to fight in the Battle of Hogwarts. And if Dobby did survive the Battle of Hogwarts, as in this fan story, he will then continue to fight for house elves needed in the reconstruction of the Wizarding Order. So he would survive the Battle of Hogwarts, and he would be part of the Wizarding Order reconstruction for the house elves. So under Kingsley Shacklebolt, he could make a little bit of progress, but obviously there is still a massive divide between wizard users and hoarders and magical creatures who could have the ability to harness it. So this would maybe allow more progress to be made. And once Hermione became Minister and entered the Ministry of Magic, she would have obviously pursued Spew with Dobby, and this would have allowed Dobby to give house elves the rights from changing them from slaves to workers. Now, whilst Kreacher died in canon when he was 666 years old, this would have allowed Dobby to be around for a very, very long time if he reached the same age as Kreacher. Now, we know Kreacher has a bit of a weird past, a weird thing from normal house elves. He was just constantly looking over the Black family, so he lasted for a lot longer than perhaps he should have. But if Dobby reached the same age, we know that he was only a teenager when he died, like in his late teenager teens from what I've read on Pottermore when he died. He would have had hundreds of years to continue the work and dedication, finally bridging the gap between wand users and different magical creatures. But again, this is just an afterthought. I would like to think that after their go with the goblins who really hate wand users, and the centaurs, and the way they treat house elves, they would have finally shared the secrets on wand making, and obviously in return these other magical creatures would return some of their skills that they would not tell them. So centaurs with gazing at the stars, and obviously goblins on armor and magical weapon making would be there. But let me know where you think Dobby would have ended up had he not died in the Deathly Hallows, and make sure to subscribe and like this video for more similar videos on what ifs of the Harry Potter universe.